This is Dijon, an incredible artist and producer whose album absolutely not only has a plethora of production tricks, but will change the way you think about making music. It's time to enter into the beautifully imperfect world of Dijon's Absolutely. The general theme of Dijon's sound selection is that it's very traditional. Piano, live drums, guitar, bass, and the odd weird instrument, but we'll touch more on that later on. The main instrument throughout the project is guitar. He played it himself on songs like Annie, and had Michael Gordon, also known as McGee, play on a lot of the other songs. Dijon said this about Mike's playing: "There's something very different in there that I think he might be creating or transmitting from an alien planet, but there's some familiar touchstones." Basically, it's different and makes you think, but it's familiar enough that you can understand it. For our track, I came up with a melodic, soulful progression inspired by Rodeo Clown. Tell me, what are you so afraid of? You're missing out. Whilst Dijon and McGee's guitar tone on Absolutely is quite dry, you still need to process it with some effects. First, I added a room reverb. This is going to be your best friend if you want that enclosed, live feeling. Dijon said how the apartment they used to record the album was very boxy, so room reverbs are perfect for this. After that, I put on a simple dry amp and EQ. And finally, as a little bit of secret sauce, I used this pitch shifting plugin, Elastic Pitch. Not to change the pitch, but to use this slider which changes the timbre. If you slide it left, it kind of takes away some highs, but with more texture than a regular EQ. In an interview, Dijon mentioned how they remade his actual apartment where they recorded the album for these live performances. He wanted listeners to remember that in a world of social media and content, there were real people making this music. But how does he get this feeling into the music itself? Well, I read this in another interview. I'm trying to figure out how to do really small moments that inform songwriting. You have the most messed up rhythm and you're forced to try and interpret a song around it. It's a more worthy challenge than stacking yourself up against Bob Dylan and trying to write a perfect song on guitar. This is our first real gem. Dijon will use modular synths, out-of-tune piano melodies, and anything abnormal to spark an idea. So first, I downloaded this free modular synth VST from Cherry Audio. I was clicking through presets and eventually I came across this kick bass kind of sound. The whole time I was consciously trying to go with the flow and not revert back to how I'd normally start a beat. Then I wanted to process it with any VST that I don't normally use. I opened Spin, and as soon as it landed on the default preset, I was like, oh, this is fire. It gave it a wide, roomy kind of sound, which reminded me a lot of the kick on big mics. Very quickly guys, thank you so much for 50,000 subscribers. To celebrate, I'm giving a 30% off discount code for any kit on my site. If you're looking for vintage sounds like Dijon uses, then check out Leia's Legacy. It has its own VST bundle, including a vintage piano, Rhodes, and synth. I recorded real instruments and processed them with different effects, and the kit also comes with hundreds of other sounds. Hit the link below to check it out. So far, so good. We have a nice little loop going. However, it's all sounding a bit too clean. But not to worry, because Dijon's secret trick will help us with that. Dijon describes the sound of the album as omnipolar. Omni refers to the way it was recorded. On certain mics, you can set it to omni-directional mode, meaning it will pick up 360 degrees of sound. These are often used in songs, but never when the song is being recorded in a tiny apartment with a bunch of people making noise. It'll pick up everything that you wouldn't normally want to be heard. Throughout the songs, you'll hear random talking coming through, footsteps, etc. It's these sounds that gives each song its unique character. The only problem is, most of us don't have expensive omnidirectional mics and a live band to play with us. Luckily, I've got a solution that's really easy to do. All I did was play it from my speakers and record it through my phone at different points of my room. Whilst it was recording, I would walk around, make noises, and in one take, I even sang some ideas on top of the loop. Then I dragged those into our session, panned each one to different sides, leaving us with this. Like I mentioned not too long ago, there are some weird sounds across the album. As you can see here, there's someone playing a lap steel slide guitar, which is attached to a microcosm pedal. If you want to add one to your beat, you can either buy one, and they're actually not too expensive, so if you really love the sound, you could invest. There are some VSTs, you'll just need to figure out how to automate the glides. And finally, you can find a loop. I looked on Splice and found this one that fits perfectly. I also paired it with a bass line. Another thing I noticed on Absolutely was how Dijon seemed to latch on to certain melodies, like here on the live version of Big Mike's. He emphasizes that guitar line with his voice. I did the same on our beat by playing in this distorted guitar melody, then layering some vocals underneath it. To finish off the main part of our beat, we of course need some drums. For the most part, the drums on Absolutely are live ones. However, one of my favorite songs, Talk Down, takes a different approach. As you saw, Dijon used the octa track to play this classic drum break. It's from a song called Think About It by Lynn Collins. Most of you will have heard it somewhere before. It's been sampled literally countless times. But why did Dijon, a man who has access to some incredible drummers, use a 2-second loop without even chopping it up? Well, 1, it's nostalgic, and so is his music. 2, the bounce is just so good. And 3, most importantly, it's omnidirectional. You can hear a member of the band talking in the loop. It fits the theme of Absolutely perfectly. For RB, I went through some drum breaks on YouTube until I found this James Brown one. I love the texture of the drums, so I did an EQ and reverb to filter it out a bit, because if we go a bit further into Talk Down, you can see here that the drummer is playing on top of the loop. I replicated that by using this Contact drum library. To make it hit extra hard, I bussed each sound to a mixer track and added some compression / saturation. Ironically, the biggest song from the project was one that did take a more traditional approach, and that song is The Dress. It's inspired by this Bonnie Raitt song, and I wanted to take this as inspo for the B section, with the main instrument being a classic DX7 style key. Behind that are some 80s drum sounds. I pan them a bit differently, with the snare slightly to the left, something I normally wouldn't do, but that's what you can hear on The Dress. That's a very simple B section, so all we now had left to do was add some finishing touches. Dijon never does too much with his songs. Leaving space is so important. He actually mentioned in this interview how McGee's use of space gives him pockets of rhythm that he loves. With that being said, take a look at this clip and see if you can notice what's important. Leading up to the drop, Dijon uses a volume knob to create a swell. This is real life automation, and you can easily add this into your beats. There's selective bits of distortion all over the album, so I used one here, and I paired it with a wide reverb. Also on Absolutely, you'll hear instruments come in and then disappear. It could be the slide guitar, a brass, or even a piano. I use this room piano from Leia's Legacy to accent the chords and serve as a nice way to transition into the hook. It's these small moments that make your beat feel like a complete track. Finally, to finish off our whole song, I wanted to make an outro. Both outros and intros are important in Dijon's music because they can create an entirely different musical space from the main part of the song. Take Noah's highlight reel, for example. The intro uses a beautiful modular synth element, or even the end of Big Mike's, which has this really ambient pad. I combined both for an outro on our beat. I layered a soft pad with chops of modular synth lines I found on Splice, and to truly complete it, I chopped up bits of the original beat, added some heavy delay, and put them in scarcely to make it feel like faded, distant memories. Dijon's Absolutely is a masterpiece in creativity, and it shows that every rule is there to be broken, from the sounds you use to the way you record them. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you go into your next music making session with a refreshed sense of creativity.